Hello guys and welcome to another Ravendawn video. In today's video we're going to be talking about the Blood Herald build. It's a build I've been really enjoying. It really actually saves me from using my pots. As you can see, I already have 101 pots accumulated, which is super fun as well. Kind of very bad at the game. So being able to enjoy a build that actually gives me so much sustain is such a big plus. In today's video we actually have Wizzler, who is the guy who introduced me into this build, so he's gonna give us his POV so we can have a better understanding on how this works. Also, he actually streams, so I'm gonna be leaving his link on the description below, so make sure you go ahead and check him out. It's 100% worth it. So with that being said, let's get started. So here we are at Bleak Hill. We are currently sitting next to Bleak Hill. There's scorned enemies right here, and I want to show you guys before we start just a little bit of action of the build. Wizzler currently is a level effective 44, meaning that these mobs are 10 levels ahead of him. So we're gonna just watch him deal with them, and you can see that build in action. So let's go ahead and get in there, Wizzler. You guys can't see, just the amount of like healing he gets is ridiculous. This entire build has so much utility, healing, dot damage. He can deal with multiple enemies that are, like I said, almost 10 levels ahead of him with no problem. He just deals with that one and deals with the next one. Just super easy, right? It's super fun to watch it, and it's just super effective, right? With that said, let's get started. Wizzler, please walk us through on this build. I have Warfare, Archery, and Witchcraft. This is what consists the Herald class. And talk to us through on where should we put the points, what card should we be using, how does the synergy work, all you.
Hey guys, I'm Wizzler. We're going to talk about the Herald build, but I'm going to take a quick detour and we're going to talk about starting off in the earlier game. Sitting at around 48 skill points is where this build will really start coming together. Tote is going to show you the skills we will allocate in, so that way you guys can understand starting off in the game if you guys do want to try the build. Looking at the Witchcraft tree, we're going to go into Curse, Leech,
Okay.
Magic Rupture,
Okay.
Shackles of Pain, and then Death Touch.
Okay.
Now, early game, I would recommend Bloodmancer, Curse
As
Touch,
a passives, correct? Yeah. Bloodmancer.
and then
Okay.
Creeping Death.
Creeping Death, Curse Touch, and Creeping Death. Okay.
And at this point in the game, we want to try to get as much damage out of our passives to complement our Bloodmancer, and how we're going to utilize our Witchcraft tree, because this build is all about the dots. We really want to ramp those dots and get them going.
Okay.
Now, sliding over into the Warfare tree, that was your first 24 points. We're going to use another 24 points here, and this is all early game, like I said. We're going to use Brutal Strike for our main bread and butter skill, which means we're going to use this all the time.
Okay, Brutal Strike is our basic attack, pretty much.
Like, yes.
Okay.
Going down the tree, Guillotine. That is a execute if you have the card. If not, it is still a generally well-placed skill. A good Aether Burner.
Okay.
Starting out as a low level, I'll recommend Feasting Strike over Blade Storm, as we won't have the damage to fully AoE pull quite yet.
Okay.
Going into Fissure for a defensive, while also being an interrupt to help you with any pesky mages at the start of the game you might run into. And then we'll use the Berserk to give us a buff, because we're going to use that with the card. So we're not going to get the Aether generation out of it. We're going to get a big damage boost out of it.
Okay.
And then for the passives, and this is where a lot of the healing of the build comes in, we're going to take Savagery.
Okay.
And that's going to really complement our Bloodmancer and our Witchcraft tree with the passives of Creeping Death and Curse Touch. Those are going to amplify that Savagery perk and make it cause great damage while also healing you more.
Okay.
We're going to go into Bloodseeker, because in our build, we are dual wielding. So we have a lot of auto attacks going out, and that's just going to be a lot of healing. Just small takes, all adding up to a large number. And then for overall healing, we're going to take Bloodbath. As it's building up damage, as it's building stacks, all the damage you're doing is going to 10% of all damage dealt, which we're going to have a ton of dots going crazy, will also heal us, which will complement the Bloodmancer. And then once it builds stacks, we'll regen 10% of our HP. And this is where I would take the tree at the first 48 points. Don't worry about your third tree. Just worry about progressing at that point and like building up to this point.
Okay.
But going forward, if you guys now for the mid game where me and Tote are, we're going to spice up our tree a bit and go into the archery. So for your next point, you're going to take Wind Arrow.
Uh-huh. Do we
Viper
use it
Arrow.
at all, or are we done?
So the way Wind Arrow works, and as you get more comfortable, if you're on low HP, you're gonna kite the mobs out because you want your dots to be healing you, and you don't want to take all the direct damage. And you can swap between Brutal Strike and Wind Arrow. So find a key that is comfortable for you to swap to,
Okay.
and use it as a way to get bonus damage out as you're walking away from the mob to let them die to the dots if you need to.
Okay.
It's very situational, not 100% demanded, but it is good to have while going from pack to pack.
Okay.
Viper Arrow, this is a huge dot. It scales very well. Does a ton of damage. We're going to go into Quickfire. And this is going to be another massive heal for us. That's going to really complement with Bloodseeker, the passive on Warfare. Now, going deeper into the tree, we'll be looking into skills as Rain of Arrows or Dawn Arrow. This becomes your choice because at this point in the game, you may want to do the small AoEing, or you want to really bolster your auto attack damage up if you're doing a slightly harder target and you might be 1v1 or 1v2. But if you're doing 3-4 pulls on like mid-tier mobs, you would definitely want to prefer Rain of Arrows over Dawn Arrows. But for now, we're just going to go with the Rain of Arrows.
Okay.
And then going downwards, we're going to, before we go into the final tree of the archery, we're going to look at some passives. Passives that are going to be really good for us at this point with these points are going to be Mark for Death and Blitz.
Okay, Mark for Death and Blitz.
You guys will see Tote has a few points left, and we're just going to clean up some extra AoE here. We're going to take Blade Storm back.
Okay.
So that way we can complement our Rain of Arrows. And a very strong skill that's going to help our lifesteal is going to be Shield Break.
Okay.
And you have, 3 points left?
2 points left, sadly.
Yeah, 2. Yeah, right. So 2, this is right where it checks out.
Yep.
And that's going to complete our tree.
There we go. Now let's go ahead and deep dive into the cards.
Okay, great. Thank you. Cards we are going to be looking at going into the Warfare tree is a very pivotal card on our Warfare tree is Troll. It is a Brutal Strike card. We're going to go top to bottom so it's easier.
Yes, sir.
Troll increases the healing of Brutal Strike by 19%. That is very, very key for the fact that we are constantly spamming Brutal Strike in between our dots. And then if you're below 50% HP, I have the blue version of the card. It will increase your healing by 40%. And if you guys know how Brutal Strike operates, it already heals you a baseline of 92. Well, based off your weapon power, it gives you a good amount of healing.
Oh, that's really good.
So increasing it by 19%, and then while below 50% HP, increasing it even further, it really makes it stand out as a great spammable skill.
Okay.
Then we go down to Guillotine. Increases the damage of Guillotine by your weapon power.
Is this the left one or the right one?
It's the left one.
Okay, the left
target
one,
is 35% or below, so this becomes an execute. So this is we're going to be spending our Aether to allow us to really just put out at the final bottom third of his health, just put out a big damage.
Okay.
Going into Feasting Strike. Looking at Feasting Strike, the obvious choice most people would make would be Polar Bear. But for us, as a hybrid, we're not consistently relying on our weapon power. So we're going to run the Hog Warlord card, which is going to increase your healing effectiveness by a percentage per 25% Aether consumed, depending on the level of your card. This allows us to have a huge heal. And because we have a lot of crit in our build by running leather armor and building in precision, you can get upwards to, I'm getting upwards on my playstyle up to like a 1200 heal. And that's about 25% of my HP just recovered back instantly.
Jeez. It's pretty nice.
Going into Blade Storm, which is a popular card we use, is the Troll Knight. We're going to use, the reason we take Blade Storm is not only does it heal on hit and apply a ton of damage, but using the Troll Knight card will allow us to apply another bleed, which is going to complement our Bloodmancy and our Witchcraft, Curse Touch, and Creeping Death. Now going downwards, Fissure. I like Fissure will apply a 22% slow to targets. So that way when they come out of stun, because we're using Fissure as defensive, so typically you want to use it when you're on low HP and you need a breathing room, or you see a mage casting, right? But when they come out, they are slowed for 8 seconds. This allows you to kind of manipulate the fight and be able to
Like
tame the
to
mobs.
stun and run, no? Or like to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. To just
Okay.
control the mobs. So if I'm fighting 2 mobs, I can circle around one while the other one is trying to chase me with that slow.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And then the Goblin Berserker card on Berserk. Berserk's duration is now doubled. You now gain no ether, so we're no longer looking at the ether from it, but instead we're gaining critical damage and haste. My card says by 25%. So where we run a lot of crit, every time we pop Berserk, essentially anytime a crit happens, that is 25% more damage. And then getting 25% haste, which is going to help our GCDs. Looking at the Witchcraft side of things, we're going to use Hog Cultist, where your curses just deal more damage per tick from the previous one. This ramps up significantly as curse will tick about 5 times per stack. So by the end, each tick is doing 35%, 30 to 35% more damage.
Oh, that's actually really good. Yeah, you're right.
Which will complement, with Curse Touch, we're doing 30% more damage, and then 15% when they're below 50%. So getting big value out of Curse with Creeping Death as they get low HP, because by then the Curse has already did its cycle 3 to 4 times where it's getting a ramped damage to now get a further damage increase, which will go into our Blood Dance.
Oh, right, because when a Creeping Touch, the passive, whenever a target is below 50% health, damage over time skills deal 15% more damage. So both do great synergy together. Oh, okay. All right, I see.
And then we're going to use the Vampire Necromancer, and because we're a hybrid build, Ruby Cap Mushroom, yes, it is a great choice, right, with the quick fire that we have in our tree. But this is going to give us a more consistent healing, especially in a time of need. And the reason I'll say this is because of the next 2 cards coming up. So what Vampire Necromancer does, when below 6% health, Leech now heals you. My card says 40% more.
Jesus,
so
I need to upgrade this one. When below 60% health, Leech now heals you for 35% more. That's huge.
It's a big help. So now typically in a fight, if we're 1v2, 1v3, we're going to throw at least 2 leeches out every fight. You're going to start your pull with it. So it's just going to heal. The way Leech works, it heals 100% damage dealt. Now, that's going to complement with Curse Touch. Because it does 100% damage dealt, Curse Touch essentially gives Leech 30% more healing because it is doing 30% more damage.
Right.
Now, when you look at Bloodmancer, it also, now Leech is giving me 100%, but because it is a dot, it is also getting an additional 10% as a second tick whenever you throw it through the Bloodmancer. So that is that's a way to kind of double dip 1 heal into 2 heals to stack up.
That's very nice.
Now going downwards to Magic Rupture and Shackles of Pain, these 2 cards work the same, but one being better than the other. Magic Rupture, the effectiveness of Curse, Leech, and Siphon on the target under the effect, of Magic Rupture are increased by 10% for healing of Leech and damage done by Curse. We don't run Siphon, so we're really looking at that Leech healing and that Curse damage.
So that would be the Scorn Grandmaster card. Yeah?
Yes, the Scorn Grandmaster.
Yeah.
And then going into Shackles of Pain, it is that same exact card, but on a better percentage. It is the Salt Dust Blood Mage. While Shackles of Pain is active on the target, Leech and Siphon ticks have a 25% increased effectiveness.
Oof. So you're basically buffing Leech super crazy. That's.
So the way you would execute this is on a 2 global cooldown. So when you cast a skill and it spins around, you'll use all 3 of these skills in 2 goes. You'll throw Leech, you'll throw Rupture, and you can throw Shackles of Pain in the same turn because it is on a separate global cooldown to allow you to get that ramped up 35% increased leech value. 35% more leech value is 35% more healing from the leech.
That's really good. And then
so at the start of the fight, you wouldn't use it. You wouldn't use the Rupture and the Shackles unless you start the fight low. You would definitely use the Rupture and the Shackles, where you're getting that 60%, below 60%, you're getting that 40% more healing. So you definitely want to amplify that 40% buff with the 35% increase.
Oh, okay, I see. And at the end we got Death Touch.
Death Touch with the Troll Warlock. Hitting a target with Death Touch now applies a powered curse to the enemies in a medium area, which deal 20% more damage per tick than curse. Now, why is like, oh, you're just putting another dot on, only does 20% damage. But the way curse works, because it's consuming our curse, right? It's not just putting a random curse on. It's consuming our curse. Our curse does more damage per tick. So Death Touch will ramp in damage, and you can also reapply curse to allow you to have 2 dots.
2 dots, yeah, you're right.
Which is going to give us more healing. And it becomes an AoE. So on 2 or more targets, you would curse, Death Touch right away, and then right on your main target, reapply curse, and that way every target is going to have those 2 dots going on them.
That's really good, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And all those dots, like I said, are going to complement off Curse Touch, Creeping Death, into Bloodmancer. And I will take a look at archery. We have Iceforge Storm Gunner. You know, you may not use Wind Arrow all the time, but we will have a lot of haste in our build because we're really trying to push global cooldown. Increase the damage of your Wind Arrow equal to 30% of your haste.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is percent damage increase. I'm not quite sure. I don't have the tooltips based on it. But what I do know is with a lot more haste, Wind Arrow does do a lot of damage.
Okay.
Viper Arrows, we're going to grab Giant B because Viper Arrows damage over time is increased by 7% each tick.
Nice.
If you guys played with Archer or when you do test it out, you will see that Viper Arrow does do a ton of damage.
It does.
And because we're complementing it with Curse Touch and Creeping Death, so it just consistently gets that value of the Witchcraft tree. Going into Quickfire, we're going to use Hoghound Archer, increases Quickfire base crit chance by 12%. We're already a crit base build, so adding a 12% off the top right to Quickfire is going to allow us to get some nice juicy healing. And then for every crit strike, we're going to gain 3.6% haste and 3.6% movement speed, which is going to allow us to just do more DPS for 6 seconds. And the dot refreshes itself until Quickfire ends. So you will have those 6 seconds right at the end if you hit a crit.
Nice. Very nice. And then, I mean, for this case, we're picking Rain of Arrows, and we are taking
the God's Archer. Because it is going to apply a dot raining down on your targets, which is going to give us AoE dots and damage. You know, Rain of Arrows, if you guys played Archer, you know the skill does a ton of damage. It is super good. Yeah. It does a lot. It does a lot for us too. This will allow you to apply AoE dots, which you will complement with the Blade Storm, utilizing the Troll Knight card and the burn from the Gaha's Archer card.
Awesome. And, perfect.
I think that was your whole tree, right?
Yep, that's it. That's all the points I could have. So this is how far we can make it. But as we had a conversation before we started recording, you can actually explore different options. Like, for example, you can go for Down Arrow, and with a card that Sandwatcher Jackal Down Arrow enhances your next 8 basic attacks with Sun Arrow for 20 seconds, dealing additional 30% spell damage to the target. Now, this is the fun part, and I'm mentioning this on purpose because this is actually a hybrid build. Meaning that we're not just taking full might or full intelligence like you will see in previous builds, or more like what is commonly being used now in the game. This is actually the very first hybrid build I get to play, and that actually works, and it feels very freaking powerful. So let's go ahead and jump into that. The stats, the armor. What should we be looking for? Can you tell us that, Wiz?
So realistically, you want to find gear that is price efficient, because you don't want to spend a lot of money into your gear. So because we are playing hybrid, it allows us to get creative with our shopping. I was able to get a ton of gear for cheap. Do you want me to trade it to you so you can see it, by the way? I could set up.
Sure, sure. You can trade us too, so we can take a look at your gear. That's a great idea.
And take out, so that way I'll put them all up there and show you. You can highlight it each piece, and then
Okay, so yeah, so that's a great idea. Yep.
we'll go top to bottom first, and then all right, we'll take it back from the top. All right, so we got creative with our shopping. If you look at the helmet, we went with int, might, haste. You're like, you would probably think like, man, int and might, nobody's gonna use that, right? But us as hybrid players and enjoyers, we look at this as this is great. On my gear, I went with a 4 haste 2 precision setup because I was thinking about using the axes for attack for the impact, but I found it to be okay with the attack power runes. But looking at the gear though from the helmet, we went with int, might, haste. Right, this was a good buy. I managed to snipe this helmet for about 100k. It doesn't have the most quality crystals, but the quality crystals it does have are important. +1 intelligence, +1 precision. We're going to utilize all those stats to their full efficiency.
Nice.
Our outlaw armor, going down to the chest piece, we have a dex int haste. Now this would be a good piece for if people are using staves, but most people using staves are not running leather armor, so I was managed to snipe this for cheap. And because of the negative connotation that haste has, a lot of haste pieces are devalued. You know, people just don't understand the value in it. But we also got quality crystals of haste and vitality with a little extra weapon defense, which is never bad. So we're doubling up on main stats by getting the +3 vitality and extra haste. Going to our legs, we have dex int haste again. Another good piece we sniped. This one was about 200k or so. I got all of my gear super cheap. I hope you guys can all do the same by doing some creative shopping. We got extra quality crystals going into Vit, Might, Impact. Now, somebody might have looked over this that was looking for Dex and Int because it has Might and stuff on it, like health regen.
This is a great piece in my opinion. This is such a good piece.
This was an amazing snipe. I borrowed money to snipe this, and then and the same thing with going forward into the boots. I borrowed money because I seen this and I said, I need to have this.
Wow, 6 intelligence, 6 vitality. That's huge. All right. And then you get the 2 dexterity and might. Wow. And the weapon power, dude.
Weapon power and another 3 might. Like I sniped these significantly.
That one is it. That's so good. Okay. And then yeah,
I gotta lie, chat. These were 230k. Look, I would have paid 600k for these. All right, simply these were amazing.
That's very good, yeah.
And then looking at our axe, we also doubled up on main stats of intelligence, might, and then a secondary attribute of impact. The 3 wisdom, it's not a big deal, but it does add damage to our build because we are utilizing weapon power and spell power. So we don't actually have to write off. I wouldn't shop for an item with, like, let's say dex and wisdom, because I'm not getting as much spell power per piece out of compared to intelligence, right? So we're not consistently going into wisdom. But if it has it there, it's not the end of the world. And then for our final piece, we have our sword. I kind of grabbed this one more. I would say I grabbed it in a rush. I definitely would have shopped a little bit longer if I had more funds at the time available. But nonetheless, it still covered what I wanted, which is our second precision piece. I'm running 4 haste, 2 precision. I was ideally looking for 3 haste, 2 precision, 1 impact, but the prices were starting to get outrageous on what I was looking for, and I could have utilized my money in a better manner, which was, getting full ascending gear or pushing towards heroic. Nice. This also has dex in precision, +1 on the dex, +2 on the vit. Definitely a solid piece. With the runes we chose on the gear, I just covered what I needed for stats, right? Because your stat points, you can allocate them however you want. If I reset my stats, I have 136 stat points to use.
So guys, just to move on to the stats, I have my stats here on the right. His stats are there in the middle. They may look a little bit blurry, but that's just Discord's fault. So I apologize for that. Nevertheless, go again and throw us your insight about the stats. And I just want to remind you guys, he is way less effective level than me. And look at his stats, and look at his attack power and defense powers, and look at the difference. It's absolutely insane. So go on ahead and.
So this is fully food buffed, right? We have a run down slider to complement our HP. We have the cake to give us attack power, which is going to give us, as a hybrid, more value because we are getting spell power and weapon power of it. You know, we have the run buff that's just to manage our mana. With a run buff alone, this build does not worry about mana. You can chain pull as long as you need to. You will have mana. And because we don't have health pots, if you do run into mana issues, you will just be able to pop a mana pot whenever you need. We use whetstones to be able to give us attack power, as all builds do. But like I said, we get that double value because we're double dipping in spell power and weapon power. These are my stats, unequipped, no points, and I have 136 available. Because I went with well-rounded gear, it allows me to push more heavily into DPS without having to worry about grabbing HP or grabbing more haste to get these values that I'm seeking. If you look at our global cooldown, we're sitting at a 1.2. We're sitting at a baseline of 79 haste. We have a new accessory here, the Spore Holder, the Amulet. 10 attack power and 18 might. You get this from Gilead by doing the Mushroom Quest. And you get the Shark Eye Fetish, which is I'm running. Because we are melee, we're getting 8 attack power, which is going to be spell power and weapon power. But because we're melee, we're also getting 10 more weapon power. These are very, very big. So we're getting a total of 18 weapon power and spell power all around, and then an additional 10 weapon power. These are very strong accessories. With the Ranger board, we went with the Sigil of Fortitude. Gives us 14 might and 12 vit. That's 26 stat points right there that I didn't have to allocate at all. And then the Sorceress Ring, another 18 intelligence. So between these 2 rings and this, we're getting 62 stat points from our accessories alone. This is very big when it comes to allocating your stats and be able to adjust as needed. Now, where I'm going to put my 136 stat points is we're going to look at getting to the soft cap with our weapon power. So first, just to even it out, we'll put 1 dex for now. You know, we'll put about 50 points and see where we're at. To calculate your weapon power or spell power soft cap, it is effective level times 7. I'm 44, so that is going to be 44 times 7, which will be 308. So we're going to try to look towards 308. You know, at 95, we're at 291. I have a very high attack power because of the gear I'm wearing, so I can actually afford to go cheaper into my stats. 115 is about 301. Right here, about 135, I'm allowed to hit my soft cap without going too much over. We're at 311. We only lose 1 point. I still have 45 points of value that I can place wherever I feel needed. Because we're hunting higher level mobs, we'll go a little more into HP just to give us more of a tanky threshold. I'll put about 15 points there. That's going to put me at I'm about 5 HP short of 4.5k HP, which is going to really help our bloodbath because as the 20 ticks happen on bloodbath, we regenerate 10% of our maximum HP. So HP is a great stat. We'll go a little more into our spell power and just push it right up to 100 and just get, you know, closer to that soft cap on both, which is just going to, you know, give us a little bit of healing power, which will help our feasting strike a bit. And then if you guys see, I have 310 weapon power, 282 spell power, and I was able to do that fairly easily without going crazy to my stats due to how, you know, well-rounded my equipment is. I'm not sitting there having to diversify into a lot of int or a lot of dex or a lot of vit because of the gear I have.
Wow. So there you have it. That's the Blood Herald by Wizzy. Absolutely amazing. Go ahead and show us more of that action. Go kill whatever in front of us while I give out the outro. Thank you so much, Wizzy. I really do appreciate that. Like I said before, guys, make sure to go and give him a follow. I'm going to leave his Twitch and his YouTube on the description below. It is an absolutely insane build. It's a lot of fun to see it in action for PvP, for you know, for PVE especially. It's definitely worth it. He might be in trouble here a little bit. I might be in trouble as well. Oh no, I am the one in trouble. He's fine. Oh, I got confused by the mob. I thought that was weird. But look at him just going off, killing everybody with no problem. But yeah, anyway, oh, I had the Discord open still, but anyway, that was a blast. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really, really do appreciate that. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave it on the comment section below, or go watch Wizzy on Twitch and ask him himself. With that being said, I am Toto Torres, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.